I went to the pursuit of truth. So this whole idea of weaponising weather, which I have noticed over the few years has been happening, and maybe, climate change does exist, I don't know, whether it's a cycler thing. We've only got 100 and plus years data to go on, and obviously that data, I don't know how comparable it is. If you think about today, they, have hundreds of digital thermometers, and 100 years ago, how many thermometers did they have, and what were they made of, and maybe they were more accurate and these ones are less accurate, who knows which way it is, but they're not using the same equipment, so that could cause a variation, and then they don't have the same amount. A bit like recently, like when they look for the hottest day. I think it's very unfair to try and compare that data, in the sense that now how many weather units does the Met Office or whoever it is that controls this have in the UK dotted around? They don't just have one in London, they have them all over the place. And if you notice, like when they did, we had 7 days, that heat wave, you have to have over 3 days, they were different places. It wasn't like they just stuck to one and then said, okay, London, was it the same? Was it over 30 today? Was it over 30 next day? It could be 30 in London, and then next week it's Wales, it was 30, and the London one maybe in 28. So it's very easy to get those kind of statistics. Remember the lies, damn lies and statistics. There's a reason that maxim is out there. And obviously back 100 years ago, they may have only had 10 of these things. They may have only had one in London, and that was it. And so that was your one chance to get this temperature. And the temperatures could have hit higher elsewhere, or lower, depending which way you want to go with it. And so this kind of sort of comparing this data it's not really fair. They can only, for that very reason, because you've got more chances now to get the temperatures that you want, because you've got so many more of these things. So that's the one thing I want to talk about. I didn't mention that previously, but it goes into this thing that they're talking about now about people dying. 4,507, I think it was, in 2022 last year, died of heat. Now, I suspect that is very inaccurate, because I assume on death certificates they don't write they died of heat. So therefore, that's inaccurate in its factual statement, and it shouldn't be on the news, but they're doing it to weaponise, to create a story. The ONS have given us data, and I did wonder, have the ONS actually said, how did they find this data? How did they find deaths that are caused by heat? I assume they're looking for certain conditions, dehydration or, breathing problems, stuff like that can be caused by heat. And, they've said, okay, this day was very hot, so we're going to say, because there's more than the average, that these people over the average are the ones that died of heat, the excess deaths, as it were. Well, of course, that's mere speculation, a mere, number guessing. Because how do you know that someone died of heat and they weren't going to die anyway? I'm sure people die of dehydration and oxygen problem, breathing problems when it's not hot. So how did they get to that figure to make sure that they're not weaponising weather? They're not trying to make people scared of something that... my wife, who comes from South Africa, instantly said, well, how are these people not dying in Africa then? Well, I don't know, obviously the statistics out there, but, we know there's lots of very hotter countries, like the Mediterranean. And they're always talking about in the Mediterranean, where they're good diet and their hot weather, and you see them all really old and, really fit. I suppose it could be that we're not used to this hot weather and that's why, but I don't know. We are all human beings at the end of the day. But yeah, I don't know, but it's just what interested me, this Wilfred Frost. He's good because he won't just sort of accept, because you've put this in front of me, I'm going to accept this. There's a few of them like that who will, sort of actually, look at it and say, wait a minute, is this true or not? And so the guys that they're talking to is sort of saying, wow, we don't actually know how they died. Wait a minute, you don't know how they died? So wait a minute, how do you know that what you've been given is accurate? Are you verifying it? Or just because it's from the ONS, you're saying, well, this must be true. There was no way that they would lie to me, the government and the statistics people. Statistics are very, questionable per se. Anyway, so it just interested me that really, they're just going with this story, even though they don't really know why they're dying of this and how they're dying, and don't really seem to have very much detail on it. And yet, still, they can put this thing out as like, from 1988 to 2023, 58,000 people have died of heat. Haven't died of heat. Heat is not on the death certificate, I'm sure. And, they put that big, large figure because, they think, well, this is going to get 58,000, that's a lot. And like 4,500 last year died of that, the week of summer we had. A lot of this is probably, because of the way we treat each other in humanity and don't look after each other, and we don't have the things ready for each other, but that's another thing. But the fact is that 600 people every month are dying of COVID, and that's not on the news. And like, how many people are dying of tobacco? How many people are dying of car accidents and heart disease and cancer and all those things, because of the stuff that we put inside our bodies called food that is not, fit for purpose. But anyway, yeah, I'm going off the spot, but it just interests me that, at least they sort of said they did quibble a little bit about this data and not really understanding it.
London.
Heat-related deaths in England and Wales are on the rise and hit the highest point since records began last year, but are still far behind deaths caused by cold weather. The latest Office for National Statistics data looks at mortality rates on the hottest and coldest days between 1988 and 2022. In that time, an estimated 51,670 deaths in England and 2,186 deaths in Wales were linked to the hottest days. Colder weather caused more deaths in that time, an estimated 199,298 deaths in England and 16,474 in Wales. In 2022, an estimated 4,507 deaths were associated with the hottest days in England, the highest numbers since records began. In contrast, 1,214 people did die due to the cold weather last year, the second lowest on record. Gosh, a lot of numbers there for you to digest. Well, to help us do so, our health correspondent Ashish Joshi joins us from the newsroom. Ashish, are we talking causation here or correlation? And what are the other key takeaways from this data for you?
We don't know, Will, the reasons why people are affected by extreme temperatures, whether they're temperatures above 23, 25 degrees Celsius or below 5 degrees. Those are the extreme parameters as far as the data in this ONS release is concerned. They haven't given us, or in this data set, they haven't made a direct link between the causes of death, what's driving these deaths. This is looking at trends and patterns over those 35 years and seeing what impact rising temperatures or extreme cold temperatures have on the number of people who die. We don't know why they die, but we can look at the correlation. We know that extreme heat causes problems with respiratory, as far as your respiratory functions, as far as pollution is concerned. But we also know that the extreme cold, you have problems with cardiovascular problems. Just look back at last winter, and you see what impact the flu season has, and the number of people it kills when flu season is particularly bad. So we know extreme heat and extreme cold has a major impact on health outcomes. What this data set is looking at is whether the trends are upwards or downwards. And we've seen as the average temperature in the UK rises, so too is the number of people who are dying. And there are various reasons for that, which this particular set of data doesn't explain. But we also know that the number of people dying because of cold is still greater than the number of people who are dying because of the heat, and that's because there are better protections in place, and the extreme heat is less likely to happen over a summer. There are extreme heat days like we saw last year, but not generally affecting people as bad as the cold does.
Ashish, thanks so much.
Yeah, so nothing really. Wait a minute. Taken from what he said there, it seems to be suggesting that actually the media have taken this and run it as the hot and cold. The ONS is sort of, unless I'm mistaken, because I was thinking they were looking for specific things on death certificate, but it looks like what they actually did is they're saying that more people died on this day, and oh look, it was hot on this day. Oh, they must have died of heat, some of these people. Is that really how they did it? That seems to be what they were saying. I don't know, but and that's even more of a leap of like, you know, I mean, possibly it may be that on those days, elderly people, young people who are vulnerable did die. I don't remember any numbers in 2022 coming out like that, like they used to tally how many people died every day of COVID. Well, it won't be this year, because this year it wasn't hot at all, was it? We had 1 week in June and most of July was rain, and 1 week in September when summer was ending. So I don't expect any excess. And that's probably why they didn't do it up to 2023. They only did it up to 2022 because there wasn't really any summer in 2023. Despite, them talking last year about, oh, well, we had 40, it's going to be 40 all the time now. And it wasn't 40 this year, was it? It was raining. So I don't know. It's difficult, like when they don't even know the data, they don't even have like the proper data set, but still they can just, run with the story. It didn't make them look really, really great there to know that they don't know what this is to do with or anything really. Anyway, I just thought it just interested me, so I just sort of put it out there. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.